Welcome to the Life is Easy When You Know How podcast. Today we are talking about black, white and grey. And what does that even mean? Now, I've always been someone who has been pretty good at being aware and being able to identify the things that I am looking at, the things that I'm feeling, the things that I am doing in my own awareness field and spiritual journey, especially over the last few years where I've literally just been working on my own healing, ascension, translation from 3D to 5D, however you want to look at it. I've been in that place where I am always aware of how I'm feeling, what's happening around me, how can I relate that to myself, how is that something that I need to work on, is this something that I need to work on, is it something I need to let go of, is it a repeating pattern, etc., etc. And I used to use different understandings with astrology or human design in giving me permission for being the way I was. So whilst I thought that there's a lot of things that I can change in my life based on my own experiences and the things that happen or that come up over my life, I can readjust and change. But then there's some areas where I was holding the belief that because I'm a Gemini, I have to switch sides all the time. I have to go from this idea to this idea, or I have to be this side on the left and then over to this side on the right. Same as with my manifesting generator title, which is part of human design. If you don't know what human design is, I am probably not the best person to explain it, but it is another tool that we can use that gives us insight on who we may be and how we may act. And it is similar to astrology, but I know a lot of people 100% believe that this is the way that you are based on where the planets were or based on where you were born, the time, the location, and this is all you can ever be. And once you understand your strengths and your weaknesses, you can use them as tools to help you catapult yourself into the life you want. Whilst I was really sort of into those areas for a little while at least, I still come back to the fact that I believe we create our own versions of who we want to be in this lifetime right now. And yes, there may be specific traits and the ways that we act or behave relating to our human design or our astrology sign will reflect who we are. But I also believe that it can change, and it's never a definite and this is the be all end all, full stop, no more questions, end of discussion. I believe it's just another tool that we can use to help us. However, there are some of the traits with being a Gemini rising and manifesting generator that I am, that I can see where some of the traits that they mention very much apply to who I am right now. But is that because I am holding the full belief that because I am this type of person or this sign, that I have to be like that? Am I still holding on to it because I'm still holding on to that belief? And that's something that I'm still tracking into. But what I wanted to talk more about today is because of those specific designs of who I am, I've noticed that I've always been holding this acceptance or awareness of who I am in an extreme state where I've always felt that I am an all or nothing type person. So everything is either completely messy or OCD neat, or I'm extremely happy or extremely sad, or I am over here in my love and light state, or I am over here in my darkness, doom and gloom state. And I've given myself permission to hold on to that based on my astrological sign, and my human design is saying, well, this is who I am, this is all who I will be, and it's the end of discussion, even though I am still the person saying, well, all these things are tools and nothing is definite. It's funny that I didn't even realize that this was something that I was holding on to and believing that this is and could be the only way that I could ever act, because that is just who I am, that's who I will always be. And it's interesting now to be able to sort of shift my focus a little bit and look at that and go, well, is that 100% true? Is there no place in my future where I could operate from a different belief than what I am holding on to from the extreme state of being on this side or that side? Is there another way that I can be? And it's interesting because I was talking about this in one of the masterminds I'm in, about how I'm black or white, or over here and then over there. And it was only through a conversation with someone else in there, someone had mentioned the word grey. And it's funny, as soon as I heard that word, it's like, ooh, there was definitely some sort of resistance coming up to that word. And obviously grey is a colour which is in between black and white. It's a mixture of both. And so I had to sort of tap into that a little bit more. I had to track into, well, what's the resistance between the grey? Why is grey uncomfortable? Why do you feel that you need to be either black or white? What's wrong with grey? And while I was making some other understandings in my life, I noticed that it wasn't even the grey colour that was really triggering me. It was more of thinking that, well, grey's kind of boring. It's not something extreme, therefore it's not exciting. If it's just sitting in the middle of those two colours, like that's just average everyday Joe colour. I don't want to be an average everyday Joe colour. I want to be black or white. I want to be extreme. I want to be seen. I want to show up in being totally different to everyone else. I don't want to be grey like all the others. And it was only through sort of looking at that and realizing that I was still holding on to some of those beliefs where I felt that I did need to really stand out to be noticed or to be seen or for people to see me. So being that black or white was giving me that tool that I thought would make me more appealing to other people. Now, what if the colour is what's defining whatever it is? What if the extremes or the situations or the words that I use are defining them in those true opposite ends of existence? So instead of looking at things through colour, what if they were all grey? What if you had a whole group of coloured pens or pencils, and instead of having all those colours, they were all grey? They would all hold a different meaning then, wouldn't they? Because, we are probably all drawn to different colours, the ones that we may like more than others. There'll be some that make us feel different things or make us express things in different ways just based on the colour. But what if they were all grey? What if we had a whole set of coloured pencils, but they were all grey? They wouldn't have a different meaning to them. They wouldn't be able to give us a different feeling. They wouldn't be able to differentiate themselves from each other. So as I see the universe as a whole where everything exists, whether we look at it as an extreme from one side to the other, it still exists, which means it still is something all on its own. And then in that case, instead of looking at the extremes, or instead of looking at the light versus dark, the happy versus sad, the black versus white, it is still just an existence or an idea or a being or a moment or an experience or a feeling. It still is. It's only us who is giving that adjective description of being, whether it is one way or another way. But if we took all that away and we just looked at everything as it just is, like I do so many other things, well, then that would mean that black is white, light is dark, happy is sad, and sad is happy. That means it is all grey. It is all the same. There are no extremes. There are no swinging from one side to another. There are no fluctuations between this side or that side. It all just is. It's just one existence. Everything is grey. And there's nothing to say that grey is going to be something that isn't as recognisable or isn't as much taken notice of because it's not an extreme from one side to the other. It just is. And I think in that lies the secret to how we are able to navigate through our lives every day and through our emotions and through our experiences, instead of giving it a label of being this way or that way. If we just allowed it to be, if we just allowed to see everything as grey, then everything would not affect us like it does. It wouldn't be, oh no, this is so terrible, or oh no, this is so good. And whilst we are still always aiming for that, oh, this is so good, what if we had that belief that the grey is the good, that there is no one or the other, and that everything is in that higher vibrational frequency state or knowing, instead of looking at love or happiness or enjoyment as being this one emotion, and being the sad or unhappy is the opposite emotion. What if we still held on to that one that feels more good, which comes from love, which is our true source aspect of who we are and where we ultimately create, be, and strive to stay in, is that love state? What if that is our only existence? And by looking at everything through our grey binoculars or lenses, we are now seeing it all as grey, but it is part of that high love, amazing, wonderful, this is so fun, I love this, oh my God, I'm so happy state. What if those deep, dark, horrible moments were still being seen as part of that high love, beautiful moments? So we took away that need of having those extremes. We took away that need of being one or the other. And it just was. But it just was in the most beautiful state and the most beautiful way that we could envision it possible. What if we could do that? How would our experiences change? How would our emotions change? How would everything around us change? Would life be better? Would it feel better? Of course it would, because we're not giving judgment to anything anymore. We are not noticing or giving a label to different ends of the stick or different ends of emotion or different levels of, whether we like it or not. It could just be whatever it is. And what if we could just sit in that and allow that? What does that even feel like? I'd love to know how you feel. What would that feel like for you? If you took a situation or something that, makes you feel sad or makes you feel unhappy or makes you feel angry, what if you took away the judgment of it, and instead of looking at it as something extreme to the opposite end of how you want to feel, and applied the grey lens to it and just said, well, it's on the same field as, me enjoying this other moment over here, then what? How would that feel? I'd love I'd love for you to sit in that and try that and see what that feels like, because now that I have made that realization, it's like, whoa, I'm mind blown. It's not, grey's not a bad thing. And we don't need the black and white. I don't need to be extreme for people to notice me. I don't need to be extreme to stand out from others. We're all different in whatever way, shape or form. We're all different. We will never be the same as anyone else. We are always going to be our true individual selves. And I've now learned that. I've been able to recognize this belief that I was holding on to, and I'm now able to look at things in a whole different, literally, lens. I no longer have a coloured lens. I now just see it all as grey. And if you're listening to me and you're thinking of that word grey and you're also believing that, grey, it's so boring, maybe just check in and see why. Why do you think the grey is boring? Like I did. And then whatever it is, whatever comes up, see if you can release it. See if it's even yours. And just try and put those grey goggles on and see what can happen, what possibilities, what experiences, how's everything going to change around you. I'll see you soon, guys. Thanks for listening.